Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Innal hamdalillah nahmaduhu wa nasta'inuhu wa nastaghfiruhu wa na'udhu bihi min shururi anfusina wa min sayyiati a'malina. Man yahdihillahu fala mudilla lahu wa man yudlil fala hadiya lahu. Wa nashhadu an la ilaha illa Allah wahdahu la sharika lahu wa nashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluhu sallallahu alaihi wasallam. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Ya ayyuhallazina amanu taqullaha haqqa tuqatih wa la tamutunna illa wa antum muslimun. Ya ayyuhan nasu taqu rabbakumul ladzi khalaqakum min nafsin wahida wa khalaqa minha zawjaha wa batta minhuma rijalan katiran wa nisaa'a wattaqullaha alladzi tasaaluna bihi wal arham innallaha kana 'alaykum raqiba. Ya ayyuhallazina amanu taqullaha wa qulu qawlan sadida yuslih lakum a'malakum wa yaghfir lakum dhunubakum wa man yuti'illaha wa rasulahu faqad faza fawzan 'azima. Amma ba'd, fa inna khayral hadithi kitabullahi wa khayral huda huda Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam wa sharral umuri muhdathatuha wa kullu bid'atin dalalah. Last month I talked about a chapter from a book by Professor Joel Hayward, and I've been doing my khutbahs for the last year based upon this book chapter by chapter. So that chapter was about the strategic vision of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Today is the next part, which is the strategic communication. How did he communicate his vision strategically? But I will tie it with the concept of the importance of hadith and its authority. Yesterday, someone sent me a clip from a very famous Pakistani scholar, I will not name him, who claimed that Bukhari is not a book of deen. So hadith in Bukhari is not part of our deen. It's just a book of history. There are many people, including him, who say for us Quran is enough, and there is a hadith in which the Prophet ﷺ had mentioned that time will come when a people will sit on his couch and say Quran is enough for us. The question is it true according to the Quran? What's the role of the Prophet ﷺ? What actually is hadith? And does it have an authority? So when I talk about strategic communication, whatever the Prophet ﷺ communicated to his Sahaba has been recorded in the form of hadith. That's his communication. So the question is, was the Prophet ﷺ commanded to convey anything but the Quran? We'll look at it. What makes us Muslim? What makes us different from other people who believe in Allah? And actually Dr. Mushtaq was sitting here about 20 years ago, told me this thing. He said, our kalma is La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. There are many people who say La ilaha illallah, but they don't say Muhammadur Rasulullah. Jews believe in Allah, Christians believe in Allah, Hindus believe in Allah. But do they believe in Muhammadur Rasulullah? Not. What makes us distinct, what makes us Muslim, we acknowledge that Muhammad Rasulullah. Not only that, he's the last of the message. And the Quran that he brought is not his words, it's from Allah. But was his responsibility only to convey the message? The Quran actually mentioned that people are asking, why doesn't an angel come down with a book? Allah could have done it. Instead of sending a messenger, just send a book to everybody. They can read and say, well, it is. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran mentioned, Ma anzalna alaykal kitaba litashqa. We did not send the book upon you to put you through hardship. It was not easy, 23 years of journey where he was traumatized just because he was conveying the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you look at the Quran, Quran mentioned, Ya ayyuha rasulu balligh ma unzila ilayk. Those who know Arabic will understand the difference. O messenger, communicate whatever is being revealed to you. Did Allah say, Ya ayyuha rasulu ballighul Quran? Communicate the Quran. Allah could have said this, but he said whatever is being revealed to you. So we'll come back to that. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself spells out the responsibilities of the Prophet ﷺ, and I will talk about it in the context of teacher. Many of you may be teaching. So you are given a book to teach. Will you go to a classroom, pick up the book, and just read one chapter from the beginning to the end, class dismissed? A teacher has to be a mentor. A teacher has to explain the book. A teacher has to tell, for example, a surgeon or a doctor or a dentist or anybody, how to use that knowledge appropriately so that the knowledge causes benefit and not damage. Correct? This is exactly what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said. the 4 responsibilities of the Prophet ﷺ. Number 1, yatlu alayhim ayatihi. He recites to them the book. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala could have ended at that. Your responsibility, just recite. Whatever comes to you, just recite. Allah did not stop it. He put 3 more responsibilities, which is part of the hadith actually. وَيُزَكِّيهِمْ. He reforms them. Second, وَيُعَلِّمُهُمُ الْكِتَابِ. He teaches, he explains the book to them. The third, وَيُعَلِّمُهُمُ الْحِكْمَةِ وَالْحِكْمَةِ, and gives them the wisdom how to put that knowledge into practice. Is the tazkiyah, ta'aleem and hikmah part of the tilawat of Quran, or is it separate? You have to think about that thing. So when the Prophet ﷺ did all of those 4 things, the first one is the Quran. If Quran was just enough, why 3 other things? We have to ask yourself this question. He was sent as a teacher. He was not sent as just a mail carrier to convey the book. Reform, teach the wisdom. So whatever he did for these 3 responsibilities is the hadith. So if hadith does not have a value, why would Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say do these 3 things? So for me, I think this is enough for me to say hadith is authoritative. Hadith is part of our religion. Hadith is the second pillar of Islamic Sharia. So if somebody says that books of hadith are not part of the deen, they're just books of history, then I have a problem. But anyway. So next thing, the Prophet ﷺ had a strategic vision that, and this is coming from a person who was not a Muslim. I've mentioned it many times, that the way he read the book, we Muslims don't read it the way he read our books and hadith and the life of the Prophet ﷺ. He has studied it and he found this is true. The Prophet ﷺ had a strategic vision that he had to communicate to different groups of people with different backgrounds, intellectual levels, skill sets and abilities. So when we read the hadith, we find sometimes that an Arabi came and asked the question. Look at the answer, the way the Prophet ﷺ answered. Look at the way he answered somebody who is in a high position, very educated person, how he communicated to them. Actually, there's a very good article which Professor mentioned. I've downloaded, but I have not read it. The use of similes and metaphors in the communication of the Prophet ﷺ. That in order to communicate, when you are talking to people with different intellectual backgrounds, you have to use different tools, different techniques to gather attention, to catch attention and explain to them. A person who is coming from desert, you speak to them in a language that he can understand. I will quote some of those things. Any communication requires words and a very careful choice of words. A khatib standing here could use words that will create controversy. But a khatib has to be very careful what he's talking about, because there are different groups of people sitting over here with different backgrounds. You don't start any controversy in your khutbah. Strategic communication requires a careful selection of words, short and to the point reminders and instructions, taking into account the audience. And all prophets were given the ability to communicate with fluency. Prophet Shuaib alayhi salatu wasalam, according to hadith, was called Khatibul Anbiya. He was the speaker among the Anbiya. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when talking about Dawud alayhi salatu wasalam, he mentions, وَشَدَدْنَا مُلْكَهُ وَآتَيْنَاهُ الْحِكْمَةَ وَفَصْلَ الْخِطَابِ. We made his kingdom strong. We gave him the wisdom and we gave him the ability to communicate. And Musa alayhi salatu wasalam, when he was given the responsibility, إِذْهَبَ إِلَّا فِرْعَوْنَ إِنَّهُ طَغَى, he expressed his inability and said, رَبِّ اشْرَحْ لِي صَدْرِي وَيَسِّرْ لِي أَمْرِي وَيَسِّرْ لِي لِسَانِي يَفْقَهُوا قَوْلِي وَاحْلُلْ عُقْدَةً مِّن لِسَانِي يَفْقَهُوا قَوْلِي. He wanted fluency. He wanted the ability to communicate in a way that people will understand. The importance of communication is here. The Prophet ﷺ also mentions بَلَّغُوا أَنِّي وَلَوْ آيَةً. Communicate from me even if it's one statement. If we accept Muhammadur Rasulullah ﷺ, then why are we saying that his words recorded in the books of hadith are history, they are not part of the deen? We are actually minimizing the importance of the Prophet ﷺ, if you look at it this way. There's his statements which are recorded in Bukhari have only historical importance and nothing else. Ma'azallah, summa ma'azallah. The Professor Hebert mentioned that a great deal of Prophet ﷺ's success can be attributed to his ability not only to explain Allah's will, but also his remarkable ability to communicate his own strategic vision and persuade people that it promised a desirable future. He was commanded Ya ayyuhar rasulu balligh ma unzila ilayk. A non-Muslim can understand this thing and tell us that hadith is important, and somebody who spent 60 years of life will tell us hadith is not important. So what was revealed to the Prophet ﷺ? Number one, obviously Quran was revealed to him. It's Kalamullah. But the second thing, and we will go with the Quran as well, the scholars mention there is wahi, which is matlub, which is we recite the Quran. But besides this, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also guided him. And that's called wahi ghair matlub. It's coming from Allah. Anybody can get inspiration. How can we deny that the Prophet did not get inspiration from Allah? That inspiration he communicated. That's also wahi, which Quran mentions, وَمَا يَنْتَقُ عَنِ الْهَوَىٰ إِنْ هُوَ إِلَّا وَحْيٌ يُوحَىٰ. Whenever the Prophet ﷺ says anything in the matter of religion, it is nothing out of his own desires. It's the inspiration that he's being inspired with. If Allah says this thing, then what problem we have with hadith? Then وَأَمَّا بِنِعْمَةِ رَبِّكَ فَحَدِّثْ. The word hadith from this root, hadith, that Allah is giving you a ni'mah. He made you the prophet. He gave you the book. He gave you the wisdom. He gave you the ability to communicate. So now communicate to people. That's a direct command from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Prophet mentioned that we can only conclude that almost no other human has ever spoken with influence as widespread and enduring his actual words among the most known and followed words in human history. So what was the strategic vision that he wanted to communicate? What style did he use? It's a very long discussion. I will try to shorten it. His vision was multifaceted. And basically Professor Hayward divides it into 4 categories, the mission of the Prophet ﷺ. First one was religious. Bring people to monotheism. Stay away from shirk, break the idols, break your false traditions, come to one God. That was one thing. Second one was social justice, where everybody is treated with equal dignity, everybody has their rights. Next one was culture. Islam is not against culture. And actually in this khutbah I mentioned that dal chawal is no better than biryani and biryani is no better than dal chawal. Everybody has their own culture. If somebody invites you to their home and gives you certain food, thank you so much. It's their culture, we should enjoy it. We should get to know each other. We should invite each other. The next one was political. And political was not attacking your enemies, but to have a system of governance. If you look at the Ahadith of the Prophet ﷺ, they can be broken down into all of these categories. He delivered his vision through a surprisingly small set of key messages using similes and metaphors and a rich palette of repeatedly uttered and easily learned and remembered parables coming from a non-Muslim. His rhetorical style included 3 key components, and he mentions from Aristotle, and he said the Prophet never read Aristotle, but if you read his style of speaking, you can actually find out these things. So he said there were 3 basic things. The number one was ethos. So what is ethos? He said it's the establishment of a message's credibility through the trust in the speaker. What was the Prophet ﷺ known as before he became a prophet? As-Sadiq wal-Amin. His trustworthiness was already established. People knew who he was. Throughout his life, nobody pointed a finger at his character. They may call him magician and whatever they wanted to call him. Nobody, maazallah, called him something bad. There was no spot on his character. That was one thing. Second is pathos. Pathos means an appeal to the audience's emotions to create empathy and connection. And I can tell you as a doctor, a lot of attention is paid in my profession to train the doctors to appeal to the emotion of a patient, to listen to the patient, to create empathy and connection. Patients don't say the doctor was very well dressed and he spoke very good English and he had so many degrees. He didn't pay attention to what I said. He didn't listen to me. He didn't spend time with me. He did not try to understand what was my problem. Patients don't care about your degrees or how you look. They look at you as a human being. How are you treating them? Do you understand them? Do you listen to them? Do you show empathy? If you look at the Ahadith of the Prophet ﷺ, when people came and talked to them, he established a connection with them. Nobody went away from him saying bad things about him. When Abu Sufyan went to Hercules asked him many searching questions. One of them was, who are his followers? Are only the rich coming because they want to jump on the bandwagon, and when he's in power they will become ministers? Is it poor people? Does anybody live his religion? Nobody lives the religion. Because he established such a connection, such trust with them. that no matter what happened, in July of that particular year, Prophet ﷺ went on an expedition to Tabuk. I went on Umrah just last month, and boy, it was very difficult for me to tolerate the heat. Can you imagine 2 months journey in July and August of that year? Nobody complained. That was the trust in the leader. We will die for him. We know that when at the time of Sulh Hudaybiyah, Quraysh sent an emissary, I'm forgetting his name, when he begged and he said to the Quraysh, I have been to many kings. I have never seen people love their king as much as they love the Prophet ﷺ. If he makes wudu, they won't let the drop of water fall down. That kind of trust, that kind of empathy. The third was logos, and it's very important. It's the appeal to rationality through logic and proof in order to build belief. And he gives an example of how the Prophet ﷺ used all of these three qualities. The hadith comes from Irbad bin Sariya. He says, يَقُولُ قَامَ فِينَا رَسُولُ اللَّهِ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وسلم ذَاتَ يَوْمٍ فَوَعَظْنَا مَوْعِظَةً بَلِيغَةً وَجَلَتْ مِنْهَا الْقُلُوبُ وَذَرَفَتْ مِنْهَا الْعُيُونُ. The power of speech. He said one day the Prophet ﷺ stood up and he gave us a vast speech. It was very bali, it was very rhetorical, very far-reaching. But at the same time, it was so emotional that our hearts started to shiver, our eyes started to tear. So power of words, but when you look at the speaker, then you realize that. And Faqila ya Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Wa'astana mu'azzatan mu'addi'an. You have given us a speech, it's like the speech of a person who is now saying goodbye to us. You know, if your father is dying and he calls you and he's speaking, the feeling that you have. فَأَهَدْ إِلَيْنَا بِأَهْدٍ. Ask us for something, tell us something that we can hold on to. So now he communicates his message. He has appealed to their emotions. He has established a connection. Now the rationality. He says, Alaykum bi taqwallah. Hold on to the taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Be conscious of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَالسَّمْعِ وَالطَّاعَةِ وَإِنْ أَبْدًا هَبَشِيًا. You will have leaders. You have to listen to your leaders. You have to obey them. Even if they are Habashi and slaves. فَسَتَرُونَ مِنْ بَعْدِ اخْتِلَافًا شَدِيدًا. Afterwards you will see a lot of disagreement. And we know that the history tells us. What should you do? فَعَلَيْكُمْ بِسُنَّتِي وَسُنَّةِ الْخُلَفَاءِ الرَّاشِدِينَ الْمَهْدِيِّينَ. In those periods of time, hold on to my sunnah. But if the sunnah is book of history, then what importance does it have for us? You have to ask yourself this question. You know, his sunnah is recorded in those books. How will you hold on to it if you say, it's not part of our deen? It is part of our deen. He is himself saying this. Hold on to my sunnah and the sunnah of Khulafai Rashidin al-Mahdiin. Addu ala bin nawazij. Hold on to it like you're snatching on your nails. Wa iyyakum wal umur al-muhdathat. And don't start anything new which is contrary to the principles of Islam. فَإِن كُلَّ بِدَةٍ ضَلَالَةٍ. Because every innovation in the matter of religion is misguidance. That if we look at the statements of the Prophet ﷺ and we try to break down, this is coming from the Prophet and some of it from myself. First, as I mentioned, is monotheism, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then pleasing Allah through devotion and scrupulously moral conduct. Imam Bukhari has written another book, it's called Adab al-Mufrid, which is about our interaction with each other, the manners in Islam. We don't pay much attention to that, but it's very important. Next, societal cohesion through charity. And here I want to mention that the Muslims are suffering. In Gaza, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ease their matters, we make dua to them. We have some hope that the 47 nations in the world are doing something. At the same time, we have floods in Pakistan, and inshallah we are trying to collect some funds and send them to Pakistan so that it can be used for people over there. We have several boxes over here, Rafi can also help you. So please donate, and donate to the masjid as well. Then being good to other human beings with whom coexistence is possible. Our neighbors, we have to live with them. We have to be good to them. We have to show them our best behavior. And we show them our worst behavior by blocking their driveways. The neighbors complained to the police met with Rifai. They took away one car last week and somebody was complaining to Rifai, he doesn't take it away, poor guy. It's not masjid's responsibility. If you are not parked properly and your car is stowed away, it's because of you, not because of the masjid. Masjid has a facility. Masjid also has some other areas where you can park your car. But if you are blocking somebody's driveway, it's your responsibility. Don't blame it on the masjid. But look at the Prophet ﷺ. A Muslim will not harm anybody through his words or through his hands. So don't harm. We have to live in a society where there are people with different values. We have to show our best face, our best character. Next one was, and through courageous fighting of those who choose aggression or reject coexistence. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم ولذكر الله أكبر. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. A sister in our community, the wife of Brother Mahmoud Hassan, has passed away. Her janaza will be at WIC after the Friday prayers today, and her burial will be at the Hope Cemetery. So those of you who can attend, should attend, inshallah. I will also go there. And if you find a brother, do convey your condolences, make dua for the sister. اللهم اغفر لها وارحمها وادخلها في جنة الفردوس. اللهم أعيذها من عذاب القبر ومن عذاب النار. اللهم اغفر لحينا وميتنا وصغيرنا وكبيرنا وذكرنا وأنثانا وشاهدنا وغائبنا. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive and our parents and those relatives that we have also lost. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give long life to those who are alive, long life, health. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make our children the leaders of the mankind. Sunday school registration and school classes will start at 10 a.m. this Sunday. And be responsible. If you bring your children here, don't just leave them. This is not a babysitting class, okay? Your children come, be responsible, sit down. You can learn something as well, or you can contribute in different ways by volunteering. Inshallah, we'll also be resuming our English tafsir halaqah from this Sunday from 12 to 1. We will start with the Surah Sabah, verse number 43. And inshallah, we'll continue it. It will be on Zoom as well. And the Arabic halaqah is every Tuesday in the evening. I don't know the timing. At 7 o'clock. So please try to attend those sessions, learn something, teach something. There's a mentioning that our life should be spent in two ways. Be a learner and be a teacher. When I was going through my medical training, we were taught this thing: see one, do one, teach one. You observe your senior do something, then you do under guidance. Once you have learned, then you teach. This is how life goes on. That the discoveries which are made by one generation are passed on to the next generation. They develop it, they prepare leaders. So if you have a skill that you've learned and you want to share it, come forward. Any masjid, I'm not saying just come to ISTW, any masjid, whatever skill you have, share it with others. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will reward you. So now coming to, I will mention only two hadiths in which the Prophet ﷺ talked to two different people with two different backgrounds, with two different intellectual levels. The simile that he used and the language that he used. That's how you can appreciate the ahadith. When you read the ahadith, you have to look at it. So here is a guy. He's an Arab. He's coming from desert. There is little water. You are thirsty. What you want is water, basically. You need to carry water, otherwise you will die. You need some direction. So he comes and he tells the Prophet ﷺ that the commandments of Islam are too much for me. Tells you his background. Teach me something simple. Okay. How can you teach something in one word that he will remember? I said the Prophet ﷺ used sometimes use very short statements that people could memorize and carry with them and act upon them. So the words that he's using, he's coming from desert, thirst is there. You want to have your tongue moist all the time with a little bit of water. You know, when I'm driving sometimes my mouth gets dry and I carry this water just to keep my tongue moist. Right? So the Prophet ﷺ said, La yazalu lisanuka ratban min dhikrillahi azza wa jal. Very simple thing. Your tongue should always remain moist. When you're traveling in the desert, you carry the water to keep your tongue moist. When you're going through the desert of your life, your tongue should be moist with the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Keep remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Simplest of expressions that he could connect. That's the power of eloquence. Now come Aisha radiallahu ta'ala. She had a brilliant mind. And she will ask very searching questions. Those questions have also been recorded in the books of history. Books of hadith, sorry. Not book of history. Books of hadith for us. So if you treat those statements as history, not part of the deen, you lose a lot of things. I'm kind of bitter about it, but anyway. So Aisha radiallahu ta'ala says that I say something, Qultu Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam hasbuka min Safiya. She says something about the other wife of the Prophet, our mother Safiya. And it happens. You know, that many wives, women talk about it, nature, nothing wrong. Kaza wa kaza. Okay? Qala ghayru musaddin tani consider that she's short stature, and her height is short. Nothing bad. Safiya is a little short. And the Prophet, the language that I'm saying, that the language is used, and Aisha radiallahu anha had a poetic mind. I read somewhere that she had memorized thousands of pieces of Arabic poetry. And if you look at the Ahadith that she has communicated and compare it with others, you will see a literary taste in it. So he says, لَقَدْ قُلْتِ كَلِمَةً لَوْ مُزِجَتْ بِمَاءِ الْبَحْرِ لَمَزَجْتُهُ. Those who know Arabic can appreciate it. He said, indeed, you have said a word. If you were to mix it with the sea, it will make it water salty. To try to understand that he didn't say that you shouldn't have said this thing. He said in a language that she would appreciate and she would remember. So that happens. You know, sometimes we quote poets because it appeals to our emotions and we remember it. So he said something which he didn't say to the other guy. He spoke to him in the language that he could understand, in a way that he could connect with, and he talked to Aisha in a language that she would appreciate and understand. So that was the power of his eloquence, that he saw who he was talking. He wanted to convey a message. The thing is, how you convey the message is more important sometimes than the actual message. And that's what I wanted to say, that the Ahadith of the Prophet ﷺ are part of our religion. It was the responsibility imposed upon him by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself. Ahadith are important to know what is the mission of the Prophet ﷺ, to understand the Quran, to understand the background of what was going on. There is history in it, no question about it. But beyond history, it's an explanation of the Quran. It's a way of reforming tazkiyah of us. It's a way of teaching us the hikmah. If you just put this book aside, Bukhari, and say, book of history, I don't know what to say. You have lost. You have lost Muhammadur Rasulullah. Your kalima is only then La ilaha illallah. Where is Muhammadur Rasulullah? His words, his statements, his behavior is part of our religion. And as I can say, Dr. Mushtaq said, we are Muslims because of Muhammadur Rasulullah. So hold on to his sunnah, read the books of Ahadith. They are part of our religion. There is a lot of hikmah in it, and benefit from it. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make things easy for our brothers and sisters in Gaza, Pakistan, Palestine, Kashmir, wherever they are. Help them, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We need your attention, we need your help. We are helpless, but we are not hopeless. Our hope is in you, and you, and you only, and you help us. إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون وأقيموا الصلاة.